and good evening, depending on where you are connecting from. I would like to welcome everybody to the Citrix Ready Technical Webinar Series, where we showcase how Citrix and its partners have integrated to deliver valuable solutions to common problems. I am Venkatesh Kumar, and I'm your host for the evening, and today we have Qumu with us. With that, let me introduce the main speaker of this webinar, David from Qumu. David is Vice President of Product Marketing and is responsible for developing product strategy and positioning Qumu's platform in overall market. Prior to joining Qumu, David worked in both senior strategy and product marketing leadership roles at IBM in areas such as enterprise case and content management, business process management, and the Internet of Things. Before joining IBM in 2007, David spent the majority of his career as an analyst with the Meta Group, where he was research director and managed its technology services prior to its acquisition by Gartner in 2005. During his 12+ years there, he maintained a focus on enterprise content management, e-commerce, collaboration, and enterprise applications. Moving on, a brief introduction about Qumu as a company. Qumu Corporation provides the tools businesses need to create, manage, secure, distribute, and measure the success of their videos. Qumu's innovative solutions release the power in video to engage and empower employees, partners, and clients. Qumu helps thousands of organizations around the world realize the greatest possible value from video and other rich content they create and publish, whatever the audience size, viewer device, or network configuration. Qumu solutions are how business does video. We also have Steve Shaw, Senior Product Manager, CloudBridge at Citrix, to go over the CloudBridge. Moving on, a quick introduction about Citrix Ready. Citrix Ready is a complete end-to-end partner program that showcases and recommends third-party products, solutions, and services that demonstrate compatibility with Citrix products. Customers can quickly and easily find solutions recommended by Citrix in the Citrix Ready marketplace by navigating to www.citrix.com/ready. Today we will learn how Qumu augments and XenDesktop and XenApp video delivery capabilities while leveraging the Citrix CloudBridge CSX solution. The CloudBridge CSX solution allows enterprise to run the Qumu VideoNet Edge application on the CloudBridge WS series appliances, optimizing network performance for video at the branch, including the optimization of video in XenDesktop and XenApp environments. Without any further delay, please welcome our first speaker, Steve Shaw, Senior Product Manager, CloudBridge, to speak about the CloudBridge product. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Venkatesh. Good, again, morning, afternoon, evening, and whatever, everyone. My name is Steve Shaw. I'm a Senior Product Manager, as Venkatesh said, on the CloudBridge WAN optimization team. And what I'd like to cover today is just a brief overview of CloudBridge, what it is, what WAN optimization does, and a little bit about our integration we call branch services. And the Qumu product actually operates on our appliance utilizing our branch services platform. And I'll get a little bit into that as well. Before we get into those elements, though, what is a WAN optimizer and what does WAN optimization do? And it actually incorporates a whole bunch of different things, including managing TCP itself on the wire, compression, deduplication, protocol acceleration, video caching, reporting, and also secure tunneling of connections to the cloud itself. What I want to do is go through a real quick overview on what happens with TCP. And most people, when they deploy wide area networks, kind of figure that if you get 1.5 megabits worth of bandwidth from your provider, that you're going to get a full 1.5 megabits of throughput. And that's a simple assumption to make. And as far as the provider is concerned, that's true. But when you get into deploying TCP over a long-haul network, what tends to happen is you get into a condition called congestion collapse, so that once you hit the maximum capacity of that wide area network link, you're actually only getting what we call 5% good put, or the data that you really want to get across the wire, from one point to another. And what our TCP management capabilities do is reestablish that, so you get essentially 95% of that capacity back. So in essence, what the real benefit is that you end up getting 3 times the capacity just by managing TCP and its backoffs and drops and resets and stuff like that as a result of congestion. Another thing that we typically see is that we have a lot of times latency or congestion is often interpreted as latency by an end user. In other words, you click on something, it takes a certain amount of time. Now, if you have really low latency on that connection, say 20 milliseconds, but really high congestion, it can be the equivalent of 250 milliseconds of latency. So the user experience degrades substantially. And if you take a look at lots and lots of use cases that we've seen over the years, the application of these TCP flow control features has a significant benefit in providing, again, that really, really good user experience. So if you have low latency, high congestion, you're going to get a lousy user experience. If you manage TCP this way, you'll get a much, much better user experience, and that's what this is all about. Some other tools that we use, we actually compress and deduplicate. By compression, if you think of WinZip, that's pretty much what we're doing on the network itself. But more importantly, what we're also doing is keeping track of compression history. In other words, we're making sure that data, once it's been sent down the wire, is actually stored at both sides. If the data center device detects that it's already sent something like, let's say, an all-hands email to 20 people at the branch office, wouldn't it be nice if you just sent the email once, or the content of that email once, and just send the different headers, footers, whatever other things that might be associated with that, so that you're using less bandwidth, not just because of the fact that you're compressing it, but also you're making sure that that data doesn't traverse the network multiple times, impacting all the other users. With XenApp and XenDesktop, you know, they compress at the server farm, and what we do actually is we tell the server farm not to compress the data and to leave it in its native state. CloudBridge takes care of that data itself, but what it does also do is deduplicate. So if you take the example of, say, a customer service center with hundreds of users who are using basically the same application across a XenApp or a XenDesktop environment, the only thing that's getting sent are the actual data elements on the screen itself. The screen itself is fully deduplicated, and you don't have all these sessions using up bandwidth inefficiently. Other things that we do is we accelerate certain protocols that need help, that aren't really designed to go over long, latent, and congested networks. First generation Microsoft Common Internet File System is a good example. MAPI, the mail protocol, is also one. And we also do a lot of extra work with our own HDX in making sure that we have the maximum amount of deduplication, plus also the various virtual channels are quality of service, so that interactive channels have a higher priority than non-interactive things such as file transfers and print jobs. And when you get into quality of service, again, it's really important that, you know, you could chew up a lot of bandwidth looking at things like YouTube and Hulu videos, things of that nature. And wouldn't it be nice to take the really important business-oriented tasks that really impact the user's productivity, place that at a higher priority, and all that other stuff slows way down to where, you know, you're not affecting or using your bandwidth inefficiently. And so CloudBridge will actually take all those applications and apply different levels of priority to them so that you can make sure that the users who are trying to get their jobs done aren't impacted by the guy who just kicked off a 50 megabyte graphical print job that slows all the other users down. That print job might come out an extra 30 seconds later, minute later, but what it won't do is impact the interactive performance of those users. Some other things that we do is we actually keep track of videos that are coming up and down the wire. So if you pull a training video out of your data center, the CloudBridge device will actually have a slow rendering of that video the first time it's passed, but from then on, everything is going to be served off the local storage on the CloudBridge device in the branch. And so what that does is it gives you the ability to have multiple users watching that same video, but you only use the bandwidth to transmit that video down to the branch once. And so you also have the ability with CloudBridge to do things like take a set of videos, say training videos, and push them out to the branch office, say at night when you don't have a lot of interactive traffic, and pre-position them there so that when a user goes to actually view the video, it's again coming off the storage off of the CloudBridge device and not traversing the network again. And so what that gives you is a better video performance, a better video, better viewing performance, and also frees up bandwidth so that you can do interactive things as well. When I take a look at our ICA protocol, and this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but I'm going to go through this quickly. There are 64 different virtual channels in ICA, and they handle everything from mapping disk drives to printers to the actual screen performance and everything else. And one of the things that we do is we make sure that video channel is quashed in such a way, or quality of service in such a way that, again, the interactive components receive high priority and the non-interactive components receive a lower priority. But the other thing that's really interesting is that wouldn't it be nice when you get somebody calls a help desk, say, I can't, my XenDesktop or XenApp screen isn't working right, wouldn't it be nice to understand where that problem might be? It could be on the wide area network, it could be on the local network in the branch, it could be some issue with the data center itself, with the server farm, and all between. One of the things that CloudBridge can do is sit in that connection, that individual user connection, and understand exactly what's going on to give you a really good idea of what's going on inside that user connection, so that you have things like your ICA protocol for XenApp and XenDesktop, web, file transfers, compression statistics, and so forth, that can actually then be pushed to a third-party collector such as Splunk or SolarWinds, or we can use our own Insight Center to be able to report back on those things, so that when, for instance, that help desk guy gets a call, he can go straight to Insight Center or go straight to one of his tools to be able to understand exactly what's going on with that user session and to be able to diagnose it as being, say, an application delivery problem versus a networking problem. And it's really, really important to be able to have that quick response capable and that understanding, that Uber view of the network. So, we want to do these same kinds of things with a remote user as well. So if you've ever sat in a hotel Wi-Fi connection at 8 o'clock in the evening and trying to do email, things slow way down. We can also provide this kind of acceleration for remote access users using XenApp and XenDesktop, as well as standard applications as well. And we've seen, we had a webinar last week with one of our customers who said that he reduced the amount of time for a certain update on a spreadsheet from 14 minutes down to about 60 to 90 seconds by utilizing this kind of optimization across their remote access connections. I want to briefly go into our Windows appliance platform for the Qumu VideoNet Edge product. So we have two platforms here. Basically, they are WAN optimizers that also run a copy of Windows Server. And it's a Windows Server that's wide open. It's standard edition, fully installed, licensed, and configured, and supported by Citrix. We can also, those WAN optimizers can have anything from anywhere from 60 to up to 300 concurrent XenApp or XenDesktop sessions, up to 200 megabits of quality of service throughput, and lots of TCP connections, more than you will typically ever use at the end of a 50 megabit accelerated throughput. So we have two models. They're capable of getting up to 50 megabits of accelerated throughput. As a rule of thumb, you can say that about 200 megabits of raw throughput equals approximately 50 megabits of accelerated throughput. And the architecture of these products is really simple. We have our Xen Server hypervisor that's been modified and tweaked a little bit to be able to handle the Windows Server and the WAN optimization simultaneously. But the thing that's interesting about this is everything is completely isolated, so that somebody on the Windows Server can't get into and deal or upset the performance and operation of the WAN optimizer and vice versa. So that what you have is you have a fully functional Windows Server, domain controller, and all those services out on the branch, while on the back end you have guaranteed acceleration bandwidth. So if we say, for instance, you could fill up the Windows Server with as many applications as you want, it's never going to impact the performance of the WAN optimizer itself. So that brings us to kind of a transition to the Qumu folks. And what we have is we have our Xen server, our WAN optimization, our Windows Server, and a number of different functions that we can then put onto the environment. And this includes tools like Talon Remote Fast, Cortado's thin print product, as well as the Qumu video product. All of these have been certified under the Citrix Ready program and have the ability to run specialized, highly beneficial applications on top of this WAN optimizer and Windows Server platform. So for example, you have the ability to run a domain controller, DHCP, and all those services in addition to things like video that David's going to talk to us about now. And so if you will give me a chance to switch over to David Yackelson, he will go ahead and give you the details on the Qumu product. David?
Thank you very much, Steve. And I'm gonna try as deftly as you just did to put up my screen, which hopefully I have just done. I again give my welcome and thanks to everybody on the call, and my thanks as well to the Citrix team. And I'm here very happy to be part of and Qumu is very happy to be part of the Citrix Ready program and part of the Citrix family. I can tell you as a partner, Citrix has been a fabulous company to work with. And I'll explain more of the outcome of that as I go through my set of slides. So what I want to talk to you folks about are a couple of things. One is I want to give you an idea essentially for why it is Qumu exists and what sort of solutions we provide and for whom. And then I want to talk about the integrations we have with Citrix across the portfolio, as it were, and then talking about what we provide with CloudBridge specifically. And I'm going to start off by doing that with what I'll call a business video war story. And I have to imagine, because I've heard this numerous times across numerous venues from a variety of different organizations, that this sort of scenario has happened to many of you. And here's what it is. Essentially, an executive in a company decides that there is a critically, and by the way, this is actually a true story with names that have been changed to protect the innocent and so on, but an executive needs to deliver a critically important message to all of the employees across the organization. And in this particular instance, and I won't name the company obviously, but in this particular instance, the executive had to discuss across the organization comments that she had made, or he had made, to Wall Street, and comments which affected the future of the organization. Now, in order to make a presentation like that, you can do it a couple of different ways. You can attempt to get everybody in the organization in one place, which, as you can imagine, is difficult, if not impossible. Or you can try to assemble people in key venues across the globe, and that too often is, and was in this case, impractical. And so what this organization attempted to do is what many organizations attempt to do, which is conjure up a solution, a video solution on their own to try to accomplish this. And as my cartoonish graphics suggest over on the right side of the slide, this is fraught with a lot of peril. And so the organization encountered a whole variety, and the users and employees encountered a variety of different obstacles, which included lack of security on the video itself that needed to be distributed, and sort of the opposite end of that, when it was made available, there were access issues and security issues of people around the world trying to get at that particular video or broadcast, as well as size issues having to do with the video, since not every platform deals with every size video, and you can imagine an hour of high-end video is pretty sizable, notwithstanding the network impact it can have. And so the outcome of this wasn't very good, as you can imagine. And this is essentially why Qumu is in business. We're in business to provide what I'll characterize as high-performance business video management and delivery solutions. So that organization that I depicted came to us, as many others have done, and said, listen, we've tried to accomplish this on our own. We've tried to create a corporate YouTube, if you will, and many organizations try to do it with YouTube, which has its own issues around security and performance and so on. So they came to us and said, listen, we need a much better, well-architected way to make sure that our key messages can be spoken and shown to all of our employees whenever we need to do that, and we can have an assurance that they'll actually be heard. So that's essentially what we do. Now, I'll give you a little bit of information about what's going on in the video market at large, and that is, I think that we're very much at an inflection point where organizations are rediscovering video, if you want to think of it that way, and in some ways it's obvious. The best way to communicate with people is by talking directly to them and showing them your face and showing your emotions and so on. And that hasn't been possible because video is really, really hard. You could hear it in the example that I gave you, and I can give you a variety of other examples. And you can see how Citrix has even architected into its solutions ways of dealing with internet video and other forms of video. Video is a hard thing to make happen in a high-performance manner across a LAN and a WAN. That's simply how it is. But many, many organizations are saying, okay, we get that it's hard, but there are folks like Qumu out there that we can go to provide platforms and solutions to make it easier. So what we've been seeing in this inflection point is many organizations coming up with a lot of different ways to incorporate video into how they communicate, how they do their jobs every day. And the little graphics on this slide depict a lot of the different sorts of use cases that we commonly see among organizations implementing video. And they range from the live executive broadcast to pre-recorded sales training to video blogs. Sales enablement tends to be a very, very popular use case. Content-based marketing or integrating marketing automation solutions with videos to get the message out to customers and then track what they watch and what they do. Those are all great examples of applications that we are implementing across a variety of different organizations across the globe continually. And as you can see on the bottom there are many, many organizations that have implemented our solutions. And this is something that is a renaissance, if you will, across every vertical market. I could talk about healthcare, I could talk about retail, I could talk about manufacturing, high tech, you name the vertical. This is a very, very horizontal technology that has a variety of vertical applications, many of which are communications oriented, but many of which also become specialized. And I could talk, for example, about energy or utility companies with field service being delivered or training for field service being delivered to mobile devices and tablets. So that's an overview of the sorts of use cases that we encounter and that we implement all the time. Now I want to give you a bit of a look at what it actually takes to deliver those sorts of solutions. And so, I talked about Qumu providing this platform for business video capture and management and delivery. And this is a marketecture look, if you will, at what goes on within the platform. And so we talk about the video-enabled enterprise, and as these different enterprises and organizations discover the power of video, what they want to be able to do is to be video-enabled. And what this graphic depicts is essentially the ability to capture video in a whole variety of different venues. So whether that's video coming from a video conferencing system, whether it's video that you capture on a mobile phone, whether it is an executive broadcast that's being captured in a production studio, it doesn't matter. We are providing the means to capture that high-performance video, manage it in the platform, and manage it means a variety of different things. It can be the governance around a particular video. So say, for example, you're a manufacturing company and you're recording best practices of how to deal with issues on an assembly line, or you're recording what happens in the event of an emergency. So those sorts of videos need to go through the same sort of governance that, for example, a document might that you're creating for the same thing. So managing that, versioning it, approving it, all of those things, from a management perspective, that's what we're doing, as well as doing all of the transformations that have to happen to make sure that a video can be delivered in the right format, at the right bit rate, depending upon who the user is and what the endpoint is. And that's the right side of this slide. So part of being a video-enabled enterprise is being able to deliver that high-performance video to anyone in any venue. So whether that's a desktop, whether it's a mobile device, whether it is a client that's managed in a VDI environment, or whether it's a thin client, these are all obviously valid sorts of endpoints and end users, all of which need to be able to see and look at video in a high-performance manner. And that's what we do. We also provide these capabilities however they need to be consumed. So whether it is managed in cloud, whether it's managed in a hybrid environment, and hybrid for us means application resides in the cloud and delivery may take advantage of appliances like CloudBridge or other VNE or Video Net Edge form factors across the enterprise to make sure that video is delivered in a high-performance manner, or it could be entirely on premises. Doesn't matter. We're making these capabilities available whatever a customer chooses in terms of platform and delivery mode. So I've been talking a lot about high-performance video and the fact that it's hard to do and takes some expertise and some special capabilities to be able to deliver it in that high-performance manner to any sort of endpoint. And so part of what exists in the Qumu platform is a capability that we call Pathfinder. And Pathfinder, think of it as the means of smart delivery based on some of the capabilities that you see here. So the ability to prepare content, manage rules, and understand what sorts of endpoints there are out there that need to receive what sort of video. And without getting into the weeds on the technology, what Pathfinder does is essentially manage the rules that say this desktop needs to get this video at this bit rate in this format, and that mobile device, which is an iOS device, needs to get this video in this particular format at this particular bit rate, and so on. Pathfinder is an incredibly important part of our architecture, and it is essentially the way that we can manage the delivery of high-performance business video to any sort of endpoint. Again, regardless of form factor, regardless of location. And as you can see on the slide, it doesn't matter what sort of device, and we are proud to be Citrix ready. I'll talk more about the Citrix integration as I go through this. Another part of being a video-enabled enterprise is being able to consume or use video in the context of how people do their jobs every day. And so part of what we do and part of what separates us from the competition is this ability to deliver video into the context of the applications that people use. So you see a number of examples on the screen here. You can certainly have a video portal, if you will, so you can have a central location from which you manage or retrieve video, so think of it from a video on demand standpoint. Or what many of our customers do is they say, well, listen, my users work all the time in SharePoint or in Jive or in whatever their favorite collaborative or social application is, or we use WebSphere Portal, pick one. What we do and what we can do is we essentially embed that video capability transparently into those environments, into those applications, so that video becomes what is essentially a first-class data type or first-class citizen within those environments. So if, for example, I have a SharePoint 2013 environment, we have web parts that allow video to be managed and viewed and searched just as if it was any other sort of data type that would exist in SharePoint. What's also neat is that we provide a capability called speech search that allows you to, or allows the videos rather, to be phonetically indexed. And what that means is that then you can search through either one video or a library of videos by looking for a word that somebody says. If you think about it, that's a significant advantage and a significant time saver if you're looking through the libraries that many of our customers have that could have hundreds and thousands of different videos. So all of that works in the context of those different collaborative or unified communication source of applications. And then obviously our customers can skin their video portals how they want, or brand them and identify them in their own sort of environment. The last thing I'll talk about on this slide is that little square down on the right. And we're very happy and proud to note that we, and this is, you're looking at the most current version of the Gartner Magic Quadrant on essentially video management platforms, and we are the leader. The other thing that I've done on this is to accent a company called Qumu Valley, which we acquired earlier this year. And what was interesting and what's good news for us is that Qumu Valley was also ranked very, very high on the quadrant. And now between the capabilities that Qumu Valley brings to us in terms of cloud side management and delivery and authoring and creation, as well as what Qumu has traditionally had in terms of management and delivery, we are by far providing the leading solution in the market. The other thing that I'll mention on this slide is I talked a little bit about the integration between video and applications that you use every day. Well, marketing automation is another popular sort of application that we think is a significant win for video. So just imagine your marketing organizations that create a campaign around a product or a service. You can easily not only deliver a video through email or to a website, but through the integrations that we provide, you can track what it is people are watching, how long they watched, and you can even track polling and survey data that you may provide during that video and use all that information to drive additional campaigns. That is a huge win for organizations. And the integrations that we have today with Eloqua and Salesforce and other marketing automation platforms is a significant advantage for our customers. So that was a little bit of a long-winded overview of what Qumu is about and what Qumu does. And now I want to talk a little bit about, or actually a lot about, the integrations that we have in the Citrix portfolio and environment. So Citrix obviously realizes that video is a hard medium to manage and deliver. And jointly with us, we've been solving this problem and attempting to solve this problem for Citrix customers. And as I've been alluding to, and as Steve noted in his discussions about the Citrix environment, there are a variety of challenges for multimedia or video playback in any environment, whether it's Citrix or otherwise. And you can see them on the screen. As I've talked about, video requires a significant amount of bandwidth. It would be nice to be able to take advantage of the capability on an endpoint to be able to render that video and play it. And from a branch perspective, and we hear this all the time from our customers, what they don't want to have to do is to implement a variety of servers in order to store and manage and deliver that video. So we heard all that, and we realized that there are many, many Citrix customers as Citrix that are out there that want video delivered to that variety of endpoints. And so there are several solutions that we've come up with in order to make that happen. And I'm going to talk about those over the next couple of slides. The bottom line on this slide that you should walk away with is that we do have the capabilities today to optimize the delivery of video without impacting your LAN or WAN in cooperation and integrated with Citrix's capabilities. So let's talk about a few of those. I'm going to mention a capability first on this slide that's called redirection. And I mention it because we, and there are other companies that have done this as well, have implemented redirection sort of as a workaround, as a way to both get high-performance video delivered today and also to take advantage of the capability to play video and deal with it on the endpoint. And so it's a workable solution. It's been implemented, but it's not necessarily the best solution. And you can see some of the issues on the right that exist with redirection in terms of, there are only a couple of forms of media that can be used. You don't have multicast, and from a Citrix customer standpoint, another downside of this is that thin clients are not applicable in this sort of solution. So again, I mention redirection in passing as something that we have implemented. We've done it for customers. It's not the ideal solution, but we've done it. Where we're headed, however, is something that is much more ideal, and we will make generally available in early 2015 a capability that essentially leverages a much more comprehensive way of dealing with video and delivering it to those different endpoints without having to deal with the inefficiencies and the problems with redirection. In fact, this solution will solve all of the issues that you saw on the last slide, in that it will deal with a much wider variety of media types, including H.264. It will be able to address thin clients. It will deal with multicast, and a variety of the other things that redirection couldn't do. So stay tuned. If you folks are attending any of the upcoming Citrix conferences, either the Summit or the major conference Synergy later in the year, you'll hear and see more about this solution in those different venues. But the third one I want to bring up, and the one that's the primary subject of this webinar, and that Steve had talked a little bit about before, is the integration with CloudBridge. And I won't go into a discussion of CloudBridge per se, because Steve obviously did a fantastic job of that. But what I will say is we're thrilled to have this integration with CloudBridge in order to take advantage of those branch services. So as I said before, we have a number of customers that, whether they're in financial services or other vertical markets, that have potential video consumers and users across a wide variety of branch offices worldwide. They don't want to have the overhead of servers to manage and so on, and yet they do need video delivered into their environments. So we have integrated our VideoNet Edge capability with CloudBridge, and VideoNet Edge, which I didn't describe in detail before, is a capability that works hand in glove with the Pathfinder capability that I did talk about earlier. So essentially, when you have Pathfinder, you essentially can define the VideoNet Edge appliances, software, etc., as they reside on CloudBridge, and also the different sorts of endpoints that require the different video formats and bit rates and so on. And the VideoNet Edge capability essentially enables proximity caching. It enables the delivery to the endpoint once that video is cached. It also ensures that, once again, the correct formats and bit rates and so on are delivered for the video to the variety of different endpoints. It's also important because, again, it's taking advantage of and working in concert with those different branch services that exist on the CloudBridge device as well. So what we're doing essentially is making the delivery of high-performance video possible into those branch environments without impacting the ICA channel, without impacting the LAN and the WAN, and taking advantage of the CloudBridge device and the branch location. So we're very, very excited to be a part of that, and we're looking forward to more success with it over the next year. With that, I have concluded my portion of the talk here, and I think what's going to happen is we're going to turn it back over to Steve and to Venki to address any questions that we might have from you folks in the audience.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
A question. Oh, go ahead, Vic.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And David, for the wonderful presentation. So there are a couple of questions, so let me go over, I think mostly for David. So let me read out the question, then David, you can answer from your.
Venkatesh, one quick comment. There is a question section on the GoToWebinar GUI that if you have questions, please type in your question and we will we'll moderate and be able to answer them for you as well. So go ahead, Venkatesh.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, so the first question is, with what sorts of companies do you see this solution having the most traction?
Thanks for that. So I talked a little bit about this being a very horizontal sort of technology. What I would say is the largest or most frequent adopters, I should say, that we've seen have been in financial services, high tech. I can further parse out financial services by saying banking and investment have been significant verticals. We see insurance and healthcare showing a lot of growth. But there are smatterings of customers across every vertical. Retail is popular. Manufacturing is one I should have put in the top 3. Energy is one. So really it fits anywhere. I think that I'd be agreeing with what some of the industry pundits say as well, that financial services, I think, tends to be the largest consumer.
Okay. Thank you, David. The second question we have is, what are your mobility plans as it relates to XenMobile?
Good question. So in running through the set of integrations with the Citrix portfolio, I did not mention XenMobile, so it's a good catch. We are planning and working toward an integration with XenMobile in 2015. And so I should back up and say first that I've talked about Qumu being able to deliver video to any sort of endpoint. Mobile endpoints are certainly among those that we deliver to. We work today with iOS, Android, and Windows operating systems, both across phone and tablet. And we are, as I said, in progress of working with Citrix to do a XenMobile integration, and so to enable customers to take advantage of the MDM and other capabilities that XenMobile provides in concert with the Qumu mobile apps. So once again, I would say keep watching this space. It's on its way.
Okay. Thanks, David. So yeah, so we don't have more questions. I'm watching the questions tab. So maybe we will give 1 more minute people to type in the questions in the questions tab in the GoToWebinar.
You know, I have a question for David. A lot of this ability to, I guess, use what's called stream splitting, or the ability to have multiple consumers across that, you know, kind of your horror story that you started off with. What kinds of bandwidth reduction are you seeing with, you know, with respect to delivery of live video over a wide area network?
Essentially, what I can say is we minimize that video delivery to looking like a single stream rather than the whatever number of streams there might have been if you were trying to deal with this individually. So, you know, and just to embellish it a bit, I mean, you can imagine if you were having people either download a video or attempting to run streams for whatever number of people across the WAN, how bad it would be. And you know, I think the number is, and I'm kind of vapor locking it a bit, but a high-res, couple of minutes of high-res video gets you up into the hundreds of megs easily, you know, if not more than that. So, like I said, we're able to minimize that down to the impact of a single stream, which is significant.
How many simultaneous consumers of a video at the remote side? So you have that single stream, but you have a whole bunch of people watching at the remote side. I mean, what kinds of numbers of simultaneous viewers can you have?
There's really not. I guess you're only limited by the number of CloudBridge/VNE devices that you deploy. So theoretically, there's not an upper bound. You can scale. Our system scales in a variety of different places and ways. So whether that is at the management platform end and serving it up, or whether it's the VNE end or CloudBridge end and doing the delivery, you can scale that to whatever number. We have organizations today with employees or users that number in the tens and hundreds of thousands that are getting video delivered. So we haven't run into an issue yet.
Yeah, I could only imagine what the wide area network capacity would need to be in order to facilitate that as a bunch of individual sessions. And
in my war story up front, that's
yep.
why I wasn't joking. There are every trade show or every industry show that I do, there are at least 3 customers that come up saying, you know what, we tried to do that, and we pick a mechanism to do it, but we tried to do that ourselves, and awful things started happening to our network. So you're right.
Yeah, it is an amazingly beneficial technology. Are there any other questions, Venkatesh?
No, Steve, I don't see any questions coming in. So if there are no questions, I think we can conclude the webinar.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank everyone on my part for listening to my presentation and whatever. I'm fairly easy to find if you think of a question later. David?
I will offer up my similar thanks, and in retrospect, I don't think I had my email up on my slide, but I'm sure I can be found also. I know Steve can track me down, but I thank everyone for attending and listening, and hope to meet and talk with you folks about video in person in the near future.
Great. Venkatesh?
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Thank you, David. Thank you all for attending today's webinar in Citrix Ready Technical Webinar Series. This concludes our broadcast. Thanks again.
Thanks, Venkatesh.
Thank you, everyone.